Welcome to episode 11 of Killer Stories. I'm your host, Bobbie Holmes. This past weekend, I was visiting my hometown in Pennsylvania. Friends and family were filling me in on local cases that have happened there over the years. I need to do some more research before I can share them with you guys, but you can look forward to some small town PA killer stories in the future. But I have returned to Utah, the place I now call home. It really is an amazing state. There are so many outdoor activities to do year-round, beautiful scenery, and it's a great place to raise your kids. Having said that, a lot of really weird things go down here. There are so many cases I plan to talk about that have happened in Utah. I actually already covered one of them, episode 2, the disappearance of Susan Cox Powell. Today, I'm going to cover the murder of Lori Hacking. I'll be playing clips from Oxygen's A Lie to Die For that covered her case. Today, instead of crickets, you may or may not hear a snoring dog in the background. It's my 13-year-old Jack Russell Nugget. She lays by my feet while I record, and there's just really no getting around it. As usual, let's get started with a little backstory. Lori was adopted as a baby. She doesn't remember life before her parents, Thelma and Harold Soares. Harold was originally from Brazil. He met Thelma while they were both serving a mission for the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Church in Rio de Janeiro. Afterwards, the two moved back to Fullerton, California, and that is where the couple married, and shortly after they adopted a son named Paul, and later adopting Lori when she was just 4 months old. But in 1987, Harold and Thelma divorced. Paul was about to go on his mission and chose to stay at home with his father. Thelma received full custody of Lori, and they moved to Orem, Utah, which is just about 40 miles south of Salt Lake City. In 1994, Lori was attending Orem High School. Her and a few friends took a camping trip to Lake Powell. It was on this little getaway that she met Mark Hacking. It was love at first sight. The two were inseparable. After high school, Mark went on his LDS mission to Winnipeg, Canada. Lori attended college at Weber State University. Mark was not a very good missionary. He began acting out, drinking and smoking, which is definitely frowned upon in the LDS faith. Typically, boys serve their mission for 2 years. I say boys because girls only serve 18 months, which I find interesting that they are treated differently. But anyways, Mark was sent home early because he was caught acting inappropriately with a female missionary. Now, he was dating Lori at this time, so when he returned home, he couldn't really be like, oh yeah, I was fooling around with some girl and got the boot. That probably wouldn't go over well with Lori, so he told his friends and family that his mission was cut short because he was in a car accident. The couple dated for 5 years before they got married. They had their ceremony at the Bountiful Temple. You remember I've mentioned my day job. I'm a dental hygienist. Well, I work in the city of Bountiful, and it's just 4 miles from that temple, so this all went down really close to where I live. I'm surprised they let him get married in the temple if he was sent home early from his mission for inappropriate behavior. The church usually keeps tabs on all of their members, and you have to be in good standing with the church and hit all of the marks on a checklist to qualify for marriage in the temple. This is the second episode I've mentioned marriage in the temple in the LDS faith, so I just thought I would clarify exactly what that means to those that aren't LDS. Marriage vows are until death do us part. But when you are married in the LDS temple, you take part in what's called a sealing ceremony. So what that means is that you are sealed together for eternity, even after death. So a man can be sealed to more than one woman in a lifetime, but a woman can only be sealed to one man unless they jump through hoops to go through some unsealing ceremonies. Everyone in Lori's family loved Mark. He seemed to be a great catch and a perfect fit for Lori. Lori finished her degree at the University of Utah, and Mark also attended the U. He planned for medical school at UNC in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Everyone was happy for them to have a fresh start somewhere new and start their lives together. But in the middle of planning this move, the couple finds out that Lori is pregnant. Of course, the family is ecstatic, but now that Lori and Mark are going to be across the country, they worried about the couple being alone and a new baby on the way. Especially because Mark was going to be in medical school, Lori was going to be the only one working to support them. Lori had a workout routine where she took a morning jog every day before going to work. The morning of July 19th, 2004, Lori went out for her morning jog, but Mark reported that she never came back. Assuming she may have went straight to work, he called her coworkers to find out she never showed up there either. Friends, family, coworkers, no one had heard from her. Mark called 911 to report Lori missing. The police discovered Lori's car parked near the entrance of the park. There were recent sightings of mountain lions in the area, and one theory was that she had been attacked. But the abduction of Elizabeth Smart was still fresh in everyone's brain, so the second theory was that Lori had been abducted. The story immediately made headline news. Mark went on TV and pleaded with the community to go out and help search for Lori. There was a huge search party put together to help look for her, as well as a canine unit trying to track her scent. Meanwhile, back at the Hacking household,
when we walked into the front room, there are boxes, because he had said they're moving, he's going to be going to med school. And on one of the side tables right there is a red purse. That's Lori's purse. Women don't go places without their purses. Mark has said she's driven to Memory Grove to go running, didn't take her purse, didn't take her wallet. And also on the counter, there's a big vase full of flowers. There are two types of flowers that men give their wives. They have the honey, I was thinking about you, and grabbed them from Smith's. It's a small little bouquet of carnations or such. And then there are I screwed up and you're mad at me flowers. And in this vase are those kind of flowers. They're expensive flowers, huge bouquet.
the person talking in that clip is Detective Kelly Kent. And like she said, typically women take their purses everywhere with them. I mean, I do. Or at least in this case, I would take my ID with me in case she were to get pulled over driving to or from the park. The bathroom smelled like bleach and the tub was sparkling clean, so someone recently did a heavy cleaning job in there. I'm sorry, my dogs keep walking around the hardwood floor, so the clickety-clacking is them. The master bedroom had an upgrade as well, a brand new mattress, crisp, clean sheets, and new bedding. I mean, more than just clean. These sheets still had the crease marks like they were fresh out of the package. A receipt was found in the glove box of Mark's truck for a new mattress. In one of the bedrooms, investigators discovered an estimate for moving costs. They were about to move to North Carolina. Well, Mark only listed a box spring on the estimate, yet the day before they were set to leave, he goes out and buys a brand new mattress. When Detective Kent asked why he got rid of the old mattress, Mark said it was because Lori had stained the mattress with an overnight period leak, and he threw it out. He said this happened about a week or so ago. So many things are wrong with this. For one, if Lori was 5 weeks pregnant, there was no period. Come on, Mark, a pre-med student should know that. Secondly, mattresses are expensive. You're seriously just going to throw it out over that? Go get yourself some OxyClean and problem solved. A hunting knife with blood on it was found in a dresser drawer. Mark told the authorities that it was animal blood, and he had used the knife recently while hunting. Detective Kent was not buying Mark's story. Something wasn't adding up here. She asks Mark what he's planning on majoring in at medical school, and he says oncology. But Detective Kent is so smart. She doesn't believe his story for a second, and she's trying her hardest to disprove him. She puts him on the spot and asks him to spell oncology, to which this idiot says Ancology. So Mark had better study up before he heads to UNC, because oncology starts with an O. Not only was there blood found on that knife, but they found traces of blood on the headboard and the side rails of the bed frame. Try to explain that one, Mark. Once they were able to search inside Lori's car, there was evidence of blood in there as well. Police are now changing their thoughts of abduction to homicide, and Mark Hacking was the prime suspect. Because of the brand new mattress and bedding, Detective Kent had a feeling they might be able to find the old one disposed of. One of her colleagues decided to start checking dumpsters close by. Sure enough, they found an older beige mattress that seemed to match the box spring they had in the house. It was in a dumpster at a Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints church close to the Hackings. Further investigation into Mark showed that he was actually not accepted into UNC for medical school. In fact, he never even applied. Even worse than that, he never finished his undergrad from the University of Utah. Apparently, while saying he was attending school, he would go through the trouble of doing fake homework. He'd write up papers and have his mother-in-law proofread it for him. Come graduation time, he bought a cap and gown online to take pictures. But the day of the ceremony, Mark became very sick and he couldn't attend. He actually drugged himself with something that made him vomit. This guy was digging a hole so deep, it's crazy. It turns out that in the days leading up to her disappearance, Lori had caught Mark in his lies. She called the University of North Carolina to look into student housing. The UNC medical program administrator returned her call when she was at work, and she worked at the Wells Fargo Security Services. But Lori was stunned to find out that there was no Mark Hacking enrolled for medical school there. No application was ever even received. Lori broke down in tears. She was confused, angry. She felt betrayed by her husband. She left work early that day. It is thought that this confrontation is what prompted the giant bouquet of flowers and possibly the motive for Mark to murder Lori. I mean, maybe a motive that makes sense in his crazy head. It doesn't really make sense to me. You lied, she caught you, so what? That doesn't mean murder her and your unborn child. What is the point of lying to your family about your education anyways? Apparently his father was a pediatrician, his mother was a nurse, and his brothers both worked in a science-related field as well. I guess Mark felt that he needed to appear as if he were successful like the rest of his family. Police get a call about a man running naked outside of a hotel, and the description of this man sounded just like Mark Hacking.
So a lieutenant responded to the scene of that call once they heard who was involved in it, and she was able to kind of see some things that normal behavior indicative of mental illness or a manic episode wasn't exactly what Mark was doing. He was naked, but he was wearing flip-flops or sandals still. So he had the wherewithal to protect his feet, but run around nude outside. He ended up wanting us to commit him to a mental health evaluation.
They contact one of Mark's brothers, who comes up to the hotel, gathers Mark up, and takes him up to the University of Utah so he can be treated for his psychoses. And he's seeking sanctuary somewhere.
He knew that we would be very hard-pressed to have the ability to interview him or search warrants for blood or saliva on him if he were in a lockdown mental health facility.
Mark actually worked at the mental health facility where he was taken for evaluation. I don't know about you, but if I were truly having a mental breakdown, I wouldn't want to be evaluated by people that I knew. But this was all part of his plan for defense. He was going to try to claim insanity. I think it would take more than an evening of streaking to claim you're insane. I've said this before, though. I feel like to murder someone, whether you're labeled insane or not, you have to have some mental instability. This story is making national news at this point. Someone from UNC Chapel Hill calls the investigators. They saw on the news that Mark was claiming he was going to attend there in the fall, and they were calling to confirm that he was not enrolled there, and that they had spoken with Lori about it a few days before her disappearance. One day during the search, Mark's two brothers approached Detective Kent. They asked her if she truly believed Mark was responsible, to which she said yes, she was positive that Mark was the one who killed Lori, and she was going to prove it. His brothers decided to help get to the truth. They visited Mark in the hospital. They sat and talked for a while, but they eventually got him to confess. He said that Lori had confronted him about UNC and not actually attending or even applying to medical school. Then that night, after she fell asleep, he shot her in the head. He threw her body in the dumpster. It was garbage day on their street, and Mark knew it would be picked up that morning. Then he took the mattress down to the church dumpster.
I didn't know what to do. I thought that can't possibly be right. Mark killed her? That can't be right. So then I talked to the Hackings, and of course the parents were weeping, and all their family was they were just out of their minds, with sorrow and surprise that Mark had done such a thing. Then we said, so Mark knows where she is? And they said yes, but they didn't tell us. I think the next thing I thought of was, well, where did he put her after he killed her? Where's the body? The next day, they told us, that her body was out in the landfill. That was almost as bad as knowing that Mark had killed her, because Lori, she wouldn't step out of her apartment without having combed her hair and making sure it was just right. She had on clean clothes. She had washed her hands and her face, and she'd probably taken a shower every time before she went out of her apartment. She was that clean, okay? And here she was with the garbage of the whole Salt Lake Valley. And it was just like, no, that can't be. That cannot be. But it was. That's what upset me the most. I really couldn't think of her little body up there in that garbage dump. And in fact, every time our garbage truck passed the house, I just go like that. It would remind me that she had been in one of those garbage trucks, and you know what happens in a garbage truck.
Once this information was discovered, the search party for Lori came to an end. But over 36 local officers volunteered to search the landfill to try to find Lori's remains. That landfill was actually considered max capacity and had been sealed off with clay. So now they had to dig through the clay to access the 10 acres of solid waste where Lori's supposedly was, like finding a needle in a haystack.
The landfill receives garbage daily, and in this case, about 2,000 tons a day. We received a call from the Salt Lake City Police Department. They needed to know what garbage had come in on July 19th and July 20th. They wanted to know where that waste was located. We believe that in the 2 days, there would be about 4,000 tons that would need to be looked at.
I'm a trainer and handler of forensic cadaver canines, and our job is to use our dogs to find deceased humans. You know, to a human, this would be a very difficult place to detect a specific odor. When we smell an odor, we kind of smell the end result of that odor. Like if you smell a loaf of bread, we don't smell the butter or the flour or the yeast. We smell the bread. A dog, on the other hand, they will smell each component that makes the entire odor. To them, it's nothing. It's easy. When we started, there were some problems. It was extremely hot. The seagulls and the bird activity were very active in the daytime. And so we opted to work at night when it was a little cooler and we didn't have so much distraction from the birds. They had a general idea. It was several hundred feet wide by several hundred feet deep. And we deployed our dogs initially, and our dogs gave indication in certain areas to the presence of human decomp.
On August 4th, 2004, Mark was charged with first-degree murder. He pleaded guilty. And listen to this ridiculous sentencing. 6 years to life. Which means if he got 6 years, he would probably be out on parole in like 4. Someone who murdered their wife and unborn child in cold blood should not be allowed back into society that soon. Thelma, Lori's mother, she petitioned for a change in Utah law for a minimum sentencing of first-degree murder be changed from 6 years to 15. Thanks, Thelma, for helping Utah realize the ridiculousness of this. The fact that Lori was pregnant could not be confirmed because it was so early she hadn't yet been to the doctor. Therefore, Mark was only charged for the murder of Lori, not the baby. I'm glad they got a conviction, though. At this point, they still haven't found Lori's body. A conviction without a body is rare, but I guess the evidence and confession was enough to convince a jury of his guilt. However, after Mark's sentencing, he admitted that he knew she was pregnant. He kept that information to himself until then because he knew he would go away for much longer. On October 1st, 2004, almost 3 months after she was reported missing, authorities finally found the remains of Lori in the landfill. The only fragments that were discovered were 2 teeth and a piece of her collarbone the size of a quarter. Dental records confirmed it was Lori Hacking, and unfortunately, you can't do a pregnancy test on teeth, so there is no proving that she was pregnant. Somehow, Thelma was able to forgive Mark for what he did. Quote, "It doesn't make anything that he did right," she said. "If you do not forgive something so horrendous like that, it destroys you. You curl up and die inside. That's what it would be like. If someone stuck a pin in me, poison would pour out." Thelma and Mark have continued to write letters back and forth over the years. She is a much kinder person than I am. There is no way I would be able to forgive someone for killing my daughter and future grandchild. At the time of these quotes, it was around the 10-year anniversary of Lori's death. While Thelma was able to forgive Mark, she will never forget. Quote, "People say, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to get over it. I want to slap them, because you never get over it. I'm not over it now. I will never get over it. What you get over is the immediacy of it. You get over the shock and the disbelief and all of the panic. That desperation you feel when you can't find your child. You get over that as time passes, but you never get over the loss." It does seem like Mark has some regret about what he did. This is a quote from him with some advice about lying. "There is no such thing as a harmless lie, no matter how small it is. You may think a lie only hurts the liar, but this is far from the truth. If you are traveling a path of lies, please stop now and face the consequences." When Mark entered prison, he had 0 tattoos. He now sports a tattoo of a bulldozer on his chest. Tattoos are against prison regulations, but inmates find a way. They use makeshift needles and ink. Sounds so sanitary. But I find it interesting that he chose a bulldozer. People say it's because that is what was used to sort through the tons of garbage while searching for Lori. Why you would want a permanent memory of the fact that you literally threw away your wife like garbage is beyond me. But not much Mark Hacking has done makes a lot of sense. You can find the source information for today's episode listed in the show notes. Email me to say hi or any story suggestions, killerstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Have you guys seen the awesome t-shirts my friend Missy at Freedom Street Boutique made me? I'm thinking about doing a giveaway soon to win one, so make sure you get on and follow me on all of my social media. I am Killer Stories Podcast on all of the things, Facebook, Instagram, and yep, I'm on TikTok. I gotta get someone to teach me what to do, but I'm on there. If you are enjoying my podcast, please share it with a friend. Give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and or my Facebook page. It really helps my podcast get out there to more listeners. Until next time, this has been a killer story.